how you doing? This is TV and school. Вивчаємо з тобою ми англійську. How are you? Що скажеш, коли ти зустрінеш якогось іноземця? So, let's speak English. Англійська мова Шекспіра та нью-йоркських таксистів. Англійська стане у нагоді вам, boys і дівчиська.
Okay guys, welcome back, and today we have the summary lesson on Great Britain. Paul, that's the last lesson to talk about Great Britain.
Yeah, I don't think we can summarize it really. It's so great. In 30 minutes, not possible.
Well, let's see. We'll try to do our best. Okay, so the destination now is still Great Britain. Guys, we ask you to close your eyes and imagine yourself traveling to one of the best countries in the world. Okay, so close your eyes, listen to me, and think of your perfect trip to the United Kingdom. Okay, are you ready? So guys, close your eyes and imagine that you are on an airplane. You look out of the window and see the clouds. The plane is arriving at the airport and you feel a little bit nervous as you land. You get out of the plane and follow the signs to get your suitcase. You get your suitcase and you walk out of the airport. You can't believe that you are in London at last. You decide to catch a taxi to your hotel in the center of the city. What does the taxi look like? You arrive at your hotel and leave your bag in your room. You look out of your bedroom window. What can you see? You look up at the sky. What color is it? What's the weather like? You decide to go for a walk outside to start exploring the city. There are lots of people on the street. What do they look like? What are they wearing? You see buses on the street. What color are they? What color are the post boxes? You feel hungry, so you stop for something to eat. What do you eat? You decide to start your sightseeing of the city. Where do you go? Well, a very nice immersion into the situation, right? So, have you imagined yourself being in London already?
Wow,
I hope so.
Wow, Olga, I didn't realize you had such hypnotic powers. You nearly hypnotized me.
Well, Paul, you're still here in Ukraine and having a lesson with us. Okay, guys, let's continue. What images represent Great Britain to you? Let's decide on our top 5 British icons. And guys, would you please write them down? Well, when I think of Great Britain, I think of the monarchy, of course. Then I think of Big Ben, and I think of Houses of Parliament. Then I think of Scotland and the castles of Scotland. And of course, I start thinking about Romans coming to England and giving it a name, actually. And I can't but stop thinking about the Vikings. So, what are the icons for you? Let's see. I made a list. Maybe you agree with it or not. Paul, check my list, please. So, the Queen, then www, the internet. Well, it started in the Isles, and then World Heritage. By this, I mean William Shakespeare, the theatre, Queen Elizabeth I and her golden age, Queen Victoria, and Sir Winston Churchill, and all the innovations and inventions the British people gave to the world. Then, of course, I think of Harry Potter, and I think he's the most famous teenager all over the world.
Probably is.
Probably is. And guys, I can't but think of pubs and English breakfast.
I know Ireland and Dublin isn't part of Great Britain, but once I stayed in a hotel there, and the Irish breakfast is even bigger than the English breakfast.
Wow. Okay. So now, Paul, you are in Ukraine, and what is iconic to you in Ukraine? So, and if your British friends come to Ukraine, what would you show them?
I would obviously, I didn't, probably my British friends don't realise this, and I didn't realise it till I came to Ukraine and went to watch a show in Zaporizhia by the Cossacks, because most people in England probably believe the Cossacks are kind of Russian, but now I understand that Cossacks are Ukrainian. So the Cossacks for me are iconic Ukrainian.
Yeah, and even the word Cossack means a free man. Actually, the ideas of freedom, they always flourished on the river banks of the Dnieper River. Okay, what else?
Maybe, obviously, food, cuisine.
So how do you find Ukrainian cuisine?
Yeah, I think I said before, I love zelony borscht.
Okay, you love this green borscht, right?
Yes.
Okay, but what about the red one?
Not so keen on that, because I lived in Poland for a little while before I came here, and I had Polish borscht. So my Ukrainian friend's not going to like me now, but I actually prefer Polish borscht.
I see. Okay, but what about vareniki and something like that?
Again, maybe I shouldn't have gone to Poland before I came to Ukraine, because they have something exactly the same as vareniki. I forget what they call it, but it looks the same.
I see. So these cuisines are pretty similar,
Yeah.
but still different. Okay, what else? So you mentioned 2 icons, 3 more.
Maybe because I'm from Wales, lots of mountains, are the Carpathians for me.
The Carpathian region is really iconic for Ukraine. And 2 more?
Maybe let's go for Taras Shevchenko.
Taras Shevchenko, maybe, yeah. So the poet, well-known poet. Well, we can compare Taras Shevchenko, I think, with Geoffrey Chaucer. As Geoffrey Chaucer is considered to be the father of the English language, as well as Taras Shevchenko, he is the father of the literary Ukrainian language.
And another one I just thought of, hasn't Ukrainian got or designed and manufactured the biggest cargo plane in the world?
Yeah, that's right. And the name of this cargo plane is Mriya, which means a dream. Okay, let's see if I guessed all your icons. So, well, personally, I think that every foreigner who comes to Ukraine needs to see Kiev.
They do need to see Kiev, and obviously I'm living in Kiev, but I would have to say or disagree that Kiev is the best city in Ukraine. For me, Lviv is the best city in Ukraine.
Okay, so definitely Kiev, Lviv, and then maybe Odessa to see the Black Sea. Okay, the Carpathians, that's just without any doubts. Mriya Plain and the Dnipro and the Cossacks.
And Olga, can you remind me, I went there, but I can't remember the name. What is the name of the island in the Dnipro in Zaporizhia where the Cossacks come from?
The name of the island is Hortytsia.
Okay, yes, I remember.
Yes, and national cuisine. So, top 5 icons for the British to see in Ukraine. Guys, let's move on. Now, Paul, are you good with numbers?
Yes, I can count the fingers on my hand.
Okay, can you count your toes?
Not at the same time as my fingers.
Can you add toes to fingers?
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay, how many fingers have you got?
Fingers are, now, most Ukrainians would say 10, but we have 8 because we have thumbs. Thumbs are not fingers.
That's right. I thought that I can catch you, but still.
No, teaching Ukraine for so many years, I understand that Ukrainians count thumbs as fingers.
Yeah, so guys, actually we've got 4 fingers here and 4 fingers here, and this is a thumb. So add fingers, 2 thumbs, and 10 toes. Okay, so now come, Paul, can you please read the numbers you've got in the box?
60, we have 60 again, we have 250, we have 50, we have 100, 16 and 9.
And 9. Okay, and now the task is to fill in the gaps with these numbers. Let's read the sentences and speculate, and then we'll see the answers. So, the first one, more than languages are spoken in London. Your guess, Paul?
Well, as I lived in London for most of my life, I'm aware that London has one of the most diverse cultures of any city in the world. And I read recently that 25% of the population are non-indigenous, which means they're not from London. So it has to be a very large number.
100 or more?
It's either 100 or 250.
Okay, so let's put two options in there, 250 and 100. Okay, then more than how many percent of secondary school children in England don't have English as their first language? You said that London is a melting pot of different cultures.
Yes, and as I said, 25% are non-Indigenous. So therefore, 25%, we haven't got 25%.
Yeah, we haven't
so the
got.
closest is probably 16.
Probably 16, okay. Then comes the population of the United Kingdom is almost million. How many?
Yeah, it's this one's easy, 60.
60, okay. And the population of England is just over?
Well, England is obviously the largest population of the four nations, significantly the largest, by far the largest. So if we're saying the population is 60, it's probably 50.
Probably, okay, let's see. Then Britain has more people aged over than under. So
this is two extremes of
yeah,
age.
so they have to be like extreme numbers.
Yeah, so it
like
must
the
be
lowest and the highest.
yeah, well, not the highest. 250 is the highest,
yeah.
but maybe 9 and 60.
But maybe one day Londoners will live up to 250.
Well, I'm going to live to 100.
Okay, that's okay. The next one, the currency of the UK is the pound, and definitely I know this one. So I know that 100 pence make £1.
Yes, and I know that 100 kopek make 1 hryvnia.
That's right. So, but still, it's interesting that pence are still in use, but you don't use the other currency you used to have,
Which is
like shillings.
Oh yes, shillings and yeah. But we don't. I think they stopped making pennies. So the smallest one is probably 2p. Maybe the smallest one is even 5p now.
I see. Okay, so guys, let's see the correct answers. And more than 250 languages are spoken in London. That's a very large number. That's just, I can't even imagine how many nationalities live in London.
Yeah, and we have to remember that because London is the capital of England and the Commonwealth, we have many citizens from the Commonwealth, especially the subcontinent of India. And as we know, in India, they have thousands of languages.
Yeah. Okay, and then 9% of secondary school children or more don't have English as their first language. It means that in their families, they speak the other language.
Yes.
Okay.
So that adds a problem for the school administration. And I do remember at my school, which wasn't that large a percentage, but at my school, when letters went home to parents, they would be in different languages.
Mm-hmm. That's really, that can really be a problem, actually. Okay, then comes the population of the United Kingdom is almost 60 million. I think it's more than 60 million.
It's maybe close to 63 or 4 now.
Okay, and that's very interesting that the population of England is just over 50 million. So
yes, because people will correct me if I'm wrong, but I know Scotland's 5 million, Wales is 4 million, I think Northern Ireland 2 million.
Yeah, it's interesting that lots of people are concentrated in England.
And of those 50 million, in the greater London area, it's not London itself, but the greater London area, including all the suburbs, is 12 million. So you can work that out in maths, it's like nearly 25% of England live in somewhere close to London.
Close to London. Okay, and Britain has more people aged over 60 than under 16. That's not a very good idea, actually.
But I believe that this is quite common now in most European countries because of we're living more healthy, we're not dying so young, advances in medicine. But I do remember recently, sadly because of coronavirus, that Italy is the country with the oldest population.
I see. Okay, and I was quite right about the amount of pence in £1, 100. Okay, guys, we're ready to move on. And we're going to read the text and discuss the questions. So, I see the word that Paul really adores. It's football, right?
And food together.
And football and food. Okay. So, we're going to read about a diverse society, football and food, and living in England. So, I will start reading. Would you please follow me? Where it is. England is perhaps the country most people first think of when they think of the United Kingdom. It borders both Scotland and Wales, and almost 50 million people living there, which is over 80% of the UK's total population. Major cities include London, the capital, Birmingham, Sheffield, Leeds, Newcastle, and Manchester. London is one of the most well-known cities in the world, and for many is representative of the whole of England, if not the whole of the UK. Other icons include football, actors Jude Law and Kate Winslet, Bridget Jones, pubs and beer. But for most, these represent the whole of the UK, not just England. Paul, would you continue, please?
Okay. Many of the people in our survey, either English by birth or now living here, commented that it was very difficult to distinguish between English and British culture and identity. People found that they often identify more with other things than with England as a country. These other things include the place or region in which they live, whether it to be a major city or one of the English counties, such as Yorkshire, Devon, Northumberland, the UK as a whole, or the religious or ethnic community they are from.
Okay, so we read the text. Now let's discuss some of the questions. So, Paul, what's the first country usually people think when they hear the word the United Kingdom?
Of course, most people think of England. However, because I live in Wales, I think of Wales.
Okay, yeah, but still, in Ukraine, when we say, I study English,
Yes,
they
England.
say, have you ever been to England?
Yes.
And actually, you may not have ever been to England, but you've been to Scotland,
Yes.
or Wales,
Yes.
or Northern Ireland, and that's interesting. Okay, what's the difference between England, the United Kingdom, and Great Britain? Guys, do you remember? That was from the very first lesson. Okay, so once again, Paul, tell us the difference between England, the United Kingdom, and Great Britain.
The simplest way to explain is obviously England is one of the four nations, because the United Kingdom is a country and it's made up of four nations. England is the largest nation in the United Kingdom. United Kingdom is a political term, Great Britain is more geographical.
And I know that Great Britain is the bigger island, right? And the United Kingdom is the name of the country
Yeah.
itself. Okay. Guys, have you or any of your classmates ever visited any of the cities mentioned in the text? Have you ever been to Birmingham, or have you ever been to Leeds? I've got friends living in Leeds and they're pretty happy there now. Okay. So, Paul, what would you recommend us to visit? Not only London, of course.
Okay. If I had to choose one, if you're a tourist and the tourist sites, if I had to choose one place, it's not in London. It's my favourite tour. If I take people around to show them places, the place I always recommend seeing is Stonehenge.
Okay, why
My
Stonehenge?
my favourite monument to visit. It's so historic. It's super old. You know, everyone goes on about the Egyptian pyramids. Parts of Stonehenge is older. You know, and it's like a mystery. Nobody knows or can understand or comprehend how they move these stones. Some of them 600 tons.
600 tons.
With no cars or anything like that. How do they move them hundreds of kilometres to
And
where they came
how
from?
they lift it?
How do they lift them? It's like amazing. Same as the pyramids, of course, but it's amazing. And it's beautiful, and you can walk around it. And it's really, really mysterious.
A mysterious and a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Okay, but if to talk about towns or cities, so if to know about you that you are a football fan,
Yeah.
so which city would you take us to?
Well, obviously, London has about 15 football teams.
Okay, guys, let's move on. And Paul, I know that you lived in London for a long time.
Yes.
So, and that's a very interesting thing from London, actually. So it's Cockney rhyming slang. So can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, you wouldn't Adam and Eve this, but that's an example. Adam and Eve, you wouldn't believe, okay? So Cockney rhyming slang is like, originally it came from the underworld and was developed as a language so the police couldn't understand what the criminals were saying. And Cockney is a particular area of East London, and it's like it's really not used so much now. It's quite old-fashioned, and it's just used in very, very small suburbs. But it's like it rhymes. The words rhyme with the real meaning.
Yeah, and I remember in literature, like Eliza Doolittle, right, from Bernard Shaw's play, she spoke Cockney.
Yeah.
And the intention of the Professor Higgins was to teach her speak like middle-class English. Yeah. Okay. So, and as Paul already said, it is a secret code language, and two of these theories are that it was invented by the prisoners who wanted to communicate with one another without the guards understanding, or that market vendors invented it to be able to speak without the customers understanding them. Well, still, it's a code language, but now we can have fun with it. How? Let's take a look. It works by taking a pair of connected words. For example, boat race. So these words go together. And the second word rhymes with the word you want to hide. So think race, face. You can then use just the first word of the connected to pair to refer to the word you want to hide, or you can use the pair of words. For example, she's got a beautiful boat. And you mean that she's got a beautiful face. Sometimes it can be one word that just rhymes, or the whole phrase, actually. Okay, let's see some of the pairs. So apples and pears means stairs.
Yeah, so we would say, I'm going, if I'm going to bed in the evening, I would say, good night, I'm going up the apples and pears.
Yes, okay. And Paul, can you give me your dog?
Yes, that's exactly correct, Olga. We wouldn't really say, can I have the dog and bone? We just shorten it to dog.
It means that I'm asking you to give
me
your phone. Yeah. Okay. And guys, you wouldn't Adam and Eve it. It means that you wouldn't believe it. Okay. The interesting one for me, sausage and mash means cash.
Yeah.
So the next one, loaf of bread means head.
Yeah. Again, we wouldn't use the second part. We'd say, like, if someone wasn't very clever, they weren't working the question out or answering what you want them to answer, you could say, come on, you need to use your loaf.
So you need to use your loaf to solve math tasks,
Maybe.
Right? And then you bring bread and start solving.
Yeah?
Or you use your head.
Yeah, no, loaf,
Okay.
use your loaf. It's usually like, say it in negative if someone's not thinking. Come on, use your loaf.
I see. Okay, and I like this one, baked potato. See you later.
Yeah?
Okay, you just say okay, baked potato. What? It means that you said goodbye.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Well, that's interesting. I know that Mickey Mouse means something different, not a house.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse, like a lot of these have been obviously modernized with, like, you know, all the language, all the ethnic minorities mixed in London. So Mickey Mouse now tends to be fake. If someone tries to sell me something, it's not real, like, this is a real Cartier watch, and you know it's not, you would say, that's Mickey Mouse. Or someone will tell you a story, you don't believe it, that's Mickey Mouse, it's fake, it's fairy tale.
I see. Okay, guys, you see, the language is developing. Every person who uses a language uses it in a different way, or even some new words may come to the vocabulary. For example, the word to Google, right?
Yeah.
Just Google it.
Yeah, there's other search engines.
Yeah. Okay, and not only just Google search engine. Okay, guys, let's continue. Now, where in England would you see the following places? We traveled lots around London, but maybe you know something more about Great Britain and its landsides. So we've got these cities of Cambridge, Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham, York, Stratford-upon-Avon, Oxford, and two landmarks, Salisbury Plain and Land's End. Yeah? And we've got these places of interest. So the first, the home of the Beatles. We already mentioned it.
Yes, it's a big city in the northwest of the UK.
And it's Liverpool. Okay, guys. So the second one, the hometown of Shakespeare. and guys,
Stratford-upon-Avon.
yeah, so the first one was Liverpool, and the second one is Stratford-upon-Avon. And they say that William Shakespeare was born there. Okay, what about the next one? That's Oxford and Cambridge. Why are these cities so famous all over the world?
Because they are two of the leading universities in the whole world.
And one of the oldest universities.
Yeah, and the oldest of those two is Oxford.
Yeah. Okay, and they've got a boat race,
They
right?
have a boat race on the River Thames from Putney in London. It's normally April, but unfortunately, because of coronavirus, it's been cancelled this year.
I see. Okay, the next place is Birmingham.
This is the second city in England after London. Population of 4 million, I believe. And this is a very famous for the car industry. Not so much now. We don't produce or manufacture so many cars in England now, but before it was very, very busy making cars.
I know that it is one of the biggest industrial cities. And actually, sometimes they call it the heart of England because it's in the middle of the country.
And also, I read this as well, that there are more canals in Birmingham than in Venice.
Really?
Maybe not as romantic, but definitely more canals in Birmingham than in Venice.
That's interesting. Okay. So then comes York. I love this city because of its history. For me, it's really ancient because of the Vikings and the Dracars coming to York and fighting the Saxons. So, Paul, what are your ideas of York?
Well, York has a majestic, magnificent cathedral. You can see it in the background there. York Minster. Yes, Westminster Abbey looks nice, but York Minster is amazing. You should definitely go to, if you go to York, you have to go to York Minster.
Yeah. Okay. So then comes Land's End. So when you reach the channel, you think that the land ends. But actually, now we know that's not the end of the land. No. But for the people who lived on the islands, they thought that it's the end of the world. Yeah,
it's the furthest point southwest. There is a more southerly point called Lizard Point, but that's the most southwesterly point in UK. And there's lots of famous personalities do charity walks from that point, the southwesterly point, to the opposite point in Scotland, which is a place called John O'Groats.
So like coming from south to the very north?
They normally go the other way, from north to south.
From north to south.
And they do charity walks. I think it's over 800 miles, so over 1,000 kilometers. 800
miles, over 1,000 kilometers. It's like from Kiev to the border with Hungary.
Probably, but
that's a long walk.
It's very famous for charity walks or charity riding your bike.
I see. Okay, the next one is your favorite.
My favorite, Salisbury Plain.
Yeah, and the Stonehenge. You talked a lot about it. Okay, and then comes Manchester.
Manchester, yes.
So I know Manchester from Manchester United and Manchester City.
Yeah, and has some good universities as well. Manchester United, Manchester City, famous football teams, but there are about 4 or 5 more football teams that people don't know in Manchester. Yeah,
and actually this clock tower looks pretty much like Big Ben.
Yeah, it's not Big Ben, but
yeah. But it looks pretty much like it.
Manchester's a very industrial town, similar to Leeds. In the Industrial Revolution, Manchester and Leeds had so many mills and factories. They were like, not the capital, London was the capital, but in the Industrial Revolution, many people moved from London to the north because that's where all the factories were. Yeah, good. The home task will be for the first 100 very quick users of Kahoot. I'll assign this Kahoot and the first 100 of students will be able to go through it and play it with us. So the questions are on the topic of Great Britain. They summarize everything we've been talking during past 10 lessons. I hope that you will have time and fun playing this game. Okay, guys, Britain is great. Nobody can deny that. That's so true, Olga.
So one day I hope that we'll be able to visit this country and we'll ask Paul to give us an excursion.
I'll be the guide for everybody.
Okay, so catch him by his word. Okay, guys, that's the end of the lesson. Hope you enjoyed it with us. See you.
Have a great time. Bye.